Honor Blackman startled the globe by dressing in tight leather clothing that alarmed censors. The United States banned her television program. In Britain, whole scenes were trimmed. That was only the start, though. Behind the cameras, she was using authentic martial arts to knock grown men to the ground. She broke the biggest norm in Hollywood at 39 and became the oldest woman to woo James Bond. However, what she did in private was more scandalous than what she wore. At 200 Cumberland Road in Canning Town, Place Tau, one of the most impoverished neighborhoods in East London in the years following World War I, Honor Blackman was born on August 22, 1925. Flu epidemics were still frequent, there were many overcrowded tenements in the region, and unemployment was considerable. Her father was a civil service statistician who made just enough money to support his wife Edith and their 4 kids. Until the late 1930s, the family home did not even have an indoor bathroom. Growing up with Honor means playing on streets destroyed by bombs and attending grammar school classes in temporary shelters due to a lack of available homes. Malnutrition affected many of the children in her immediate vicinity. According to health statistics from 1926, 18% of East London children had stunted growth as a result of poverty. However, the neighborhood's church bazaars, brass bands, and free storytelling at the local library all demonstrated a strong sense of community. Honor was 9 years old when she went to a library opening where poetry was read out loud. She then remarked that it was like finding a secret key to a different planet, which ignited her passion for performing. That remained with her forever. In 1941, when the Blitz was intensifying and rationing became more stringent, her father presented her with an uncommon option on her 16th birthday. She had the option of paying 5 guineas for a new bicycle or 10 shillings per session for elocution lessons at a private studio. She acknowledged that she secretly wished she could ride a bike and compete against the local boys, but she decided to take the lessons. Everything changed after that choice. She first encountered Shakespeare, John Donne's sonnets, and Ibsen's dramas through her instructor, Mrs. Marion Cody. Cody quickly realized how capable she could be. Writing to Honor's father, she begged him to let her attend the Guildhall School of Music and Drama on a part-time basis. Honor started attending classes at Guildhall in October 1941, when nightly air attacks were still occurring in London, after Frederick managed to scrape together the necessary funds. Few people from the housing estates in Place TOS could have imagined such a leap. Honor took an even more daring move the next year, at the age of 16. For the Home Office's civil defense, she volunteered as a motorcycle dispatch rider, a position often held by men. Following her successful completion of rigorous motorcycle maintenance, navigation, and first aid examinations, she was given a 500 cubic centimeters Norton Model 18 and the code name Tess. Her daring high-speed rides under blackout conditions, frequently with Luftwaffe aircraft overhead, earned her the nickname Top Gear Tessie before long. She delivered classified communications from her Downing Street base to the Ministry of Aircraft Production, Churchill's war rooms, and field hospitals. On other nights, she worked a single shift that covered up to 120 miles. In order to deliver a microfilm with encrypted Enigma data, she courageously conducted a direct air raid on Victoria Station on April 14, 1943. This action was eventually deemed essential to operational security. The only weapon she had on her person was her long leather coat, which she joked could be used as shrapnel protection. She eventually disclosed the full scope of her missions in a 2005 memoir, After Decades of Concealment. She made her acting debut following the war. In 1947, she played a maid in Parliament in the Denham Studios film Fame is the Spur. But when a horse stomped on her braided hair during a cavalry action, putting her head to the ground, tragedy struck on set. Its hoof would have crushed her head if it had fallen a few inches farther forward. At Charing Cross Hospital, she needed scalp transplants and eyebrow restoration after being hauled out bleeding from a 2-inch wound. No stunt in her James Bond career ever scared her as much as that horse, she later joked. To pay for her education, she worked long hours at the same time. She trained at Guildhall during the day and worked as a clerical assistant in the statistics division of the Home Office at night from 1940 until 1946. She worked 57 hours a week on average, which included long trips through blackout streets, homework, and 32 hours of secretarial work in addition to 20 hours of acting instruction. In a single shift on June 22, 1944, just after D-Day, she managed 1,245 incoming dispatches while remaining composed despite explosions shaking the office windows. Despite frequently fainting from tiredness, she persisted in moving forward. After graduating from Guildhall in July 1946, she received an opportunity to work at the Home Office permanently. In order to get a shot on stage, she declined, beginning that September as an understudy in The Guinea Pig. Before her career ever started, it was almost over. The lead actress unexpectedly became unwell on March 29, 1946, the opening night, and honor was thrust onto the stage. Despite the fact that she had never spoken in public, she performed with such assurance that critics referred to her as remarkably poised and captivating. Her career took off after she was given big jobs in a matter of weeks. She joined the elite organization's youth company at Pinewood Studios, popularly referred to as the Charm School, by 1950. Although it promised young performers a career in movies, the reality was harsh. While well-known actresses made $100 a week and studio officials dominated almost every decision she made, she only made $10. She spent 3 weeks in the hospital in 1954 as a result of the increasing pressure. With extreme nervousness. Notwithstanding the obstacles, she gave standout performances in movies such as Quartet, 1948, and So Long at the Fair, 1950. In 1958, she resigned from her position to regain control of her career. Her biggest breakthrough came on television in the early 1960s. Her pants kept tearing during rehearsals, despite her insistence on performing her own fight scenes as Kathy Gale in The Avengers. She had to use a stage prop to hide herself after shedding an embarrassing tear. Designer Michael Whitaker came up with a leather costume that was both stylish on screen and durable enough for battle to address the issue. The dark green leather seemed black in the black and white film, giving her a signature image that eventually served as the basis for a pop song about her kinky boots. She had training at Butterquay in London to get ready for the part. The oldest European judo club. She practiced 5 days a week under Sensei Masaki Satake, acquiring osotogare and kosotogake skills. She also achieved a unique feat for a woman at the time by earning a brown belt in just 2 years. Future female action stars like Scarlett Johansson and Sigourney Weaver were influenced by her genuine throws and holds on cinema, which established a new benchmark for action scenes. She established her reputation with powerful performances in movies during the 1950s before becoming well known. She displayed a spectrum of emotions in Quartet as Paula. Her role in Diamond City was that of the tenacious Mary Hart. In the stressful role of Rhoda O'Donovan in So Long at the Fair, she excelled. Her portrayal of Mrs. Liz Lucas, a Titanic passenger in A Night to Remember, 1958, demonstrated her poise in the face of catastrophe. By the time she wore Kathy Gale's boots, she was already recognized by the public as more than just a glitzy actress. Television history was irrevocably altered in 1961 when Honor Blackman played a part that wasn't even intended for a woman. After 25 episodes, Ian Hendry, the main character of Dr. David Keel in The Avengers, simply left the show. Blackman was cast at the last minute by the producers, who were desperate to find a replacement, in a role that was originally written for a man. She performed the role exactly as intended, shocking audiences with her strength and authority. The first fully equal female action hero on television was born as a result of this decision. The Avengers was suddenly more than just a program about male detectives. At its core was Kathy Gale from Blackman, and it had evolved into something revolutionary. Soon, even censors were unable to ignore the outrage her portrayal sparked. The way Kathy Gale battled back against criminals, her leather attire, and her boldness made her stand out from other women on television. Scenes were trimmed by British officials, including one that involved flogging that was edited from 12 strikes to 2. Whole programs were prohibited in America because they were deemed too controversial. However, fans were unable to turn away as studio technicians muttered about her tight leather clothes. Gale the Blackman was rarely rendered unconscious and frequently resisted kidnappings, and had a confidence that was uncommon among female characters of the era. In the US, she served as an inspiration for programs like Honey West and even shaped the early character development of Doctor Who. In every way, she was ahead of her time and exemplified what would be known as girl power in the future. Her image had an impact outside of the screen. The novelty track Kinky Boots was recorded by her and Patrick McNay in 1964. It was a failure at the time and soon forgotten. However, in 1990, Simon Mayo, a DJ for the BBC, brought it back to life as part of his Christmas repertoire of rare old songs. Everyone was shocked when it soared to number 5 in the UK charts, where it remained for 7 weeks. One of the shortest songs ever to reach the top 5, the song was only 1 minute and 37 seconds long. After 26 years, the oddball duet eventually got popular. There was more to her leather outfits than just style. They were born out of need. Having trained in judo since 1961 at the Butterquay Club in London, Blackman insisted on performing her own fight scenes. She executed throws, flips, and falls on the concrete studio floors that were too difficult for regular clothing to bear. The wardrobe crew had to come up with a solution after skirts split and trousers ripped. A leather jumpsuit that was both fashionable and long-lasting was designed by Michael Whitaker. The green leather gave Kathy Gale a distinctive appearance on black and white screens, appearing sleek and dark. In Britain, the ensemble sparked fashion trends, and her boots became a national obsession. To demonstrate how seriously she had taken her duty, Blackman went on to write a book on self-defense. The concert was not without its risks behind the scenes. At ABC's Teddington location, the studio flooring were concrete without any safety mats or padding. Blackman was seriously endangered by her dedication to pulling off her own exploits. She had injuries severe enough to keep her off set after landing awkwardly during one sequence. 4 weeks. Afraid of losing their celebrity and dealing with insurance issues, the production crew kept the incident under wraps. Blackman said in later years that she suffered chronic agony as a result of frequently striking the hard floors. And with her prominence came disturbing attention. The majority of the fan mail, which came in by the sackload, was from men. There were numerous explicit fantasies in the letters. Some people were going into unsettling areas that needed the cops to become involved. When some fans attempted to find her home address, the studio had to intervene to keep her safe. However, she also unexpectedly got a lot of correspondence from women who respected her courage and independence. They saw her as more than just a famous celebrity. She served as evidence that women could be strong, intellectual, and fully in charge of their own lives. Blackman unexpectedly decided to leave The Avengers after 43 episodes, despite her fame. The show was ready to move to film, add color, and finally acquire the kind of budget that promised international success when it happened. Although most people believe she left to play Pussy Galore in Goldfinger, she says otherwise. She decided to quit at the height of her creativity, believing that 2 years was sufficient, rather than stay longer for higher salaries. Before The Avengers, she had an equally amazing existence. She was raised in a house without an indoor bathroom until the late 1930s, having been born on August 22, 1925, in Plaistow, one of the roughest areas of East London. Her father made just enough money to support the family as a civil service statistician. Nearly 18% of youngsters in the region had stunted growth by 1926 due to widespread malnutrition. Honor discovered that she could escape through books and performances after hearing poetry read aloud at a local library when she was 9 years old. In 1941, when she turned 16, her father presented her with an odd choice, either elocution lessons or a new bicycle. She chose the lessons. Her life was altered by that choice. After being introduced to Shakespeare and Ibsen by her instructor, she soon found herself enrolled at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama. At the same time, she accepted a covert wartime position as a motorcycle dispatcher, delivering communications between hospitals and Churchill's war offices while avoiding bombings. She occasionally traveled 120 miles in a single night shift and was known as Top Gear Tessie. Her initial acting moves were equally spectacular. She was an understudy in the West End play The Guinea Pig at the age of 22, and when the lead unexpectedly became ill, she had no time to prepare and went on stage, giving a faultless performance that launched her career. She almost died the next year when a horse trod on her hair during a fight scene, shredding her scalp when she was filming Fame is the Spur, and leaving her heavily bleeding. Determined not to allow fear to rule her, she recovered and continued. She joined the Rank Organization's Company of Youth in the 1950s, which was infamous for abusing young performers and was designed to produce stars. With only 10 pounds a week, she was subjected to constant drills and studio control, and the stress even caused her to have a breakdown. She persevered, nevertheless, earning recognition for her parts in movies like Quartet and So Long at the Fair. Her ability to blend glitz and toughness was already recognized by viewers when she played Kathy Gale in The Avengers. It was a risk that may have gone horribly wrong when Honor Blackman was selected to play Pussy Galore in Goldfinger. Although she was already well known in Britain because of her work in The Avengers, producer Albert Broccoli was aware that she had never been seen by American audiences. He was sure that this would be to her advantage. The leather-clad, judo-throwing Kathy Gale was already well-liked by British fans, and American viewers would be introduced to a remarkable new talent who could rival James Bond in both wit and strength. Broccoli placed a wager on the actual martial arts prowess and imposing presence of a black man rather than following Hollywood convention and employing a well-known American lady. That choice contributed to Goldfinger's global success. One of Hollywood's unwritten rules was also broken by black guys. At 39, she was the oldest actress to play a Bond girl at the time, 5 years older than Sean Connery. The fact that her character was a pilot made her dislike the Bond girl title. Directing her own flying group. She wasn't there to be a lovely backdrop image. She was skilled, experienced, and had authority. A younger actress would not have been able to convey the assurance and seriousness that she brought to the character due to her age. Additionally, it gave her scenes with Connery a special sense of suspense. There was controversy even over the character's name. Because Pussy Galore was deemed so scandalous, American censors prohibited it from appearing in many movies or newspaper ads. Marketers frequently had to refer to her as Goldfinger's pilot or Miss Galore. The creators debated changing the name for a moment before deciding to stick with it. Blackman herself took advantage of the controversy, frequently uttering the name live on TV only to see the American interviewers wince. She was famous for her athletic prowess as well as her presence in the role. Blackman had received extensive judo training for The Avengers under the guidance of Douglas and Lorna Robinson, two qualified instructors. The producers modified portions of the script to depict Pussy Galore as a fighter because of her exceptional abilities. In a well-known scene, she actually threw Sean Connery to the floor. It wasn't a stunt double, instead, she stunned him with true judo techniques, which was uncommon in Bond movies until then. This blend of bravery, courage, and maturity altered the way Bond women were presented. She had never been a bimbo and never would be, according to the black man, who rejected the notion that they should be. Instead of dressing provocatively like her forebears Ursula Andress or Daniela Bianchi, she exuded confidence and pragmatism to project dominance. By demonstrating that a Bond woman could be both tough and professional, she rose to prominence as a feminist icon within the franchise. She made such an impression that succeeding producers declared she will always be regarded as a Bond legend. Goldfinger was not the only noteworthy aspect of her career, though. She had previously portrayed the goddess Hera in Jason and the Argonauts in 1963. The Skeleton Warriors and the Bronze Giant Talos, two of Ray Harryhausen's groundbreaking stop-motion creations, made the movie iconic. Hera was given both mystery and authority by Blackman, who held her own on screen as she battled with later, meticulously animated monsters. She had only 5 opportunities to assist Jason. Her presence gave the movie a spooky feeling of myth and fate, echoing the amount of times his sister had visited her before passing away. She demonstrated the breadth of her life at the top in 1965, co-starring with Gene Simmons and Lawrence Harvey. She portrayed an astute television reporter who developed feelings for Harvey's persona. The story examined the challenges of betrayal, marriage, and ambition in industrial Yorkshire. Her performance was hailed by critics, who also noted that the cast was expertly assembled. According to the movie, Blackman could be just as successful in serious drama as he was in action or fantasy. In a risky decision that placed her alongside some of Hollywood's top personalities, she also dabbled in westerns. She featured alongside Brigitte Bardot and Sean Connery in Chalaco, 1968. Since Bardot had recently attempted suicide and required round-the-clock care, Blackman subsequently acknowledged that the production was challenging and referred to her as a nightmare. The movie followed European aristocrats who ended up in Apache territory while hunting in New Mexico. The casting garnered media attention despite the lackluster reviews. Again demonstrating her flexibility, she played the kidnapped wife of Dean Martin's elderly criminal in Something Big, 1971. She stunned spectators on stage by playing Wait Until Dark's blind heroine. She had to perform in almost completely dark moments for the suspenseful thriller, which made the audience feel as terrified as her character did. Her decision to abandon her powerful action hero identity and adopt a sensitive yet resolute persona astounded critics. Later, she dazzled audiences with her performances in musical theater, particularly in A Little Night Music, 1979, and The Sound of Music, 1981, alongside Petella Clark. Her powerful and sensual singing voice won her praise even though she lacked professional training. With the biggest advance sale in British theatre history, the London production of The Sound of Music set new box office records. Mr. and Mrs., directed by Noel Coward, showcased her flexibility once more. She played a nagging housewife and a tragic romantic heroine in 1968, two very different characters in one night. Her remarkable range beyond action roles was demonstrated by her complete character switching. She blurred the boundaries between home and stage even in her personal life. She starred in the international tour of the farce Move Over, Mrs. Markham with her second husband, Maurice Kaufman. Although they separated in 1975, they were close friends and even carried on working together. Their two kids frequently accompanied them on tour, resulting in a family dynamic that is uncommon in the entertainment industry. For a new generation, Blackman recreated herself in the 1990s in the sitcom The Upper Hand. She portrayed Laura West, a glitzy older woman who was talkative, flirty, and humorous. The 94-episode series, which ran for 7 seasons from 1990 to 1996, demonstrated that she maintained her star power long into her 60s. Blackman emerged as one of the most enduring characters on British television during a period when the majority of actresses found it difficult to secure assignments after middle age, proving that growing older could be viewed as a freedom rather than a limitation. When Honor Blackman married businessman Bill Sankey in 1946, she was just 21 years old. Furthermore, it initially appeared to be the start of a promising future. However, he soon showed a side that made her life feel more like a jail than a partnership. He was 12 years older than her. There were disturbing similarities between him and her own father. What started off as love swiftly became in control. Sankey was so envious that he became obsessed. He tried to shield her from the acting career she was just beginning to pursue and wanted to know where she was and who she spoke to. His announcement that he intended to relocate to Canada and wanted her to abandon her work without hesitation was the biggest blow. She was almost totally destroyed by what she learned next. Sank had been using what were later characterized as dishonest business methods to covertly empty her bank accounts. She suffered through the suffocating marriage for 8 long years until it ended in 1954. The harm was already done by that point. She had a full nervous breakdown and had to be admitted to the hospital because she was so broken. In the 1950s, stigma was strong and hardly anybody discussed mental health in public. However, she committed to years of counseling once she left the hospital. During a period when the majority of famous personalities would have concealed such difficulties, she subtly rebuilt herself through therapy sessions, which served as her lifeline. They helped her develop boundaries, defend her sense of self-worth, and identify manipulation. It was a long time before she could even consider putting her trust in another person. However, she was subsequently able to embody the resilient and brave Kathy Gale on The Avengers thanks to those difficult lessons. She was 37 and ready for a new beginning when she wed actor Maurice Kaufman in December 1961. It initially appeared to be the kind of relationship she had always desired. They have a mutual understanding of the world, even sharing the screen in stage performances like the 1971 thriller Fright. There was grief behind the scenes, though. Despite their intense desire to have children, physicians advised them they couldn't conceive together. This was sad news in a time when infertility was severely stigmatized. They made the decision to adopt after much consideration. Lottie, their daughter, came in 1967. In 1968, Barnaby came next. While filming, Honor frequently relied on a series of au pairs to help her balance the long hours of parenting with her worldwide job. She then acknowledged feeling that nothing was ever good enough. It was a shadow from her own early years that she was resolved to avoid. The marriage became stressful even though the kids were a source of happiness. Kaufman's career was stalling at the same time as Honors's was taking off with the Avengers and Goldfinger, and the contrast between her achievements and his hardships led to animosity on both sides. After being together for 14 years, they got divorced in 1975. Later on, Honor acknowledged that she felt a great feeling of failure, particularly since she had promised her adopted children a safe and contented home. She and Kaufman remained close friends, nonetheless, and she supported him during his arduous 13-year fight with illness until his death in 1997. Few people anticipated the choice she made after the divorce. For the following 45 years, she stayed unmarried. She merely said that she was a shy person and liked her own company when asked why. The people found it unexpected. Notably because she has portrayed some of the most self-assured and self-reliant female characters on film. In private, though, she had discovered via painful experience that unhappiness was far worse than the wrong kind of company. She felt at ease with her decision. Daisy, Oscar, Olive, and Toby, her 4 grandkids, were her first and foremost priorities. She was content with her residence in Lewes, Sussex, and her vacation home in Islesboro, Maine. She also poured her efforts into political campaigns and fair trade, 2 topics she supported. Honor never shied away from following her beliefs, even if it meant defying convention. Her opportunity to become a commander of the Order of the British Empire was declined in 2002. She clarified that accepting would have been hypocritical, despite the fact that many people in Britain were astonished. Her opposition to the monarchy and her strong Republican beliefs prevented her from accepting an honor from it. She later made headlines again in 2012 when she openly attacked Sean Connery. Although she acknowledged that she had once found him incredibly alluring during Goldfinger, she was unable to forgive him for accepting a knighthood while residing overseas in order to evade paying British taxes. She said something scathing and intimate, indicating that she no longer admired his values. When Margaret Thatcher passed away in 2013, Honor once more spoke out. Despite the fact that many parts of the country paid their respects, she stated rather bluntly that Thatcher had done little to empower women by associating with men and passing up chances to support women in politics. She also expressed dissatisfaction with the Falklands War, saying simply, "We lost men, we took injuries, and we blew up a ship," and criticized her management of unions. Considering that 255 British soldiers had lost their lives in the struggle, she even went so far as to say that Argentina should own the Falklands more than Britain. She never softened her comments despite the harsh criticism she received for being so honest. On the other hand, her career never slowed. In 2001, she made a remarkable return at the age of 75 by portraying Penny Husbands Bosworth in Bridget Jones's Diary. In addition to television parts in Coronation Street, Casualty, and The Royal, it marked the beginning of over 10 years of new work, including movies like Color Me Kubrick in 2005, reuniting with the Rubens in 2010, and Anna in 2012. She continued to perform her one-woman show Wayward Women into her 80s, traveling with songs and tales of fearless women who made a difference in the world. Long into her 90s, she dominated the stage by herself, leaving audiences in awe of her presence and vitality. Honor Blackman passed away quietly in her Lewes, East Sussex, home on April 5, 2020, at the age of 94. Although the coronavirus was rampant at the time, her family made it clear that her death was due to natural causes. She had spent nearly a century of her life, from her birth in Canning Town in 1925 to her last spring spent with her loved ones in the countryside. She was a woman of exceptional beauty, intelligence, and resolve, with a distinctive voice and an unrivaled work ethic, according to her children. She had left behind the tale of a woman who lived life completely on her own terms, regardless of the consequences, in addition to a legacy of iconic parts.